you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'll just share my screen to you before I get started. I'll make sure I can see your chat. Yeah, so just to say, as Alice was explaining, if you do have any questions, please just put them in the chat. I'll answer them as I go along. Obviously, this is a new way of working for everybody, for me as well. I used to be up and down the country, all over Wales, a bit in Midlands as well, doing one-to-one sessions and sort of courses, workshops, whereas now obviously I'm sort of sat in a room behind a screen. But it is quite effective. Hopefully the webinar you'll find useful, but the one-to-ones, I know Alice mentioned them, but I'm doing quite a lot in various different sectors at the moment, and sort of changing the way people are doing things, or getting more business, or making things more efficient, or just helping explain technology. So if you have any burning questions that I don't cover today, because I understand it's not quite as good as being in a room, being able to ask questions as we go along, contact afterwards, book a one-to-one, and then we can go through things sort of separately. But in the meantime, just put things in the chat box. So I'm hoping you can all see my screen. So this is called Selling Online. It's a relatively short course, and basically what I'm going to do is take you through the basic steps of the elements of selling online. I know some of you will be selling online already, and you'll have your system in place, but maybe you're just looking to see whether you're doing it right, whether there's anything you can do differently. So I will be covering the basics of different options for selling, payment processors, all that sort of thing, different platforms, and social media as well. So if there's anything that you're already doing already, I apologize, but also there will be some people at different levels, so as I go through. So that'll take maybe 25, 30 minutes, maybe slightly less, and then at the end of that, I'm just going to give a bit of an overview of digital marketing as applying to selling online, and what sort of things you should be looking at as well. So that might sort of spark some ideas. So that's myself. Obviously I own Insynch, worked for Insynch 15 years now. So let me scroll to the next slide. We do, as a company, loads of digital marketing for loads of different companies, different sectors. And so my day-to-day job is to try and get sales for companies, or get business for companies. I get paid to do that, and so therefore I'm very much to do with profit and measuring responses and measuring success. So everything I cover today, I will have done with somebody at some point in some way or another. So hopefully it'll be useful. And I'm decided I'm going to go forwards with my presentation and not backwards. So just a little bit about online shopping trends. This slide's slightly out of date, but you probably all know or be aware that obviously online sales are growing and growing and growing. This is before all this situation happened. And obviously what's happened recently is going to change things dramatically even more. Market share increasing. Now I'm just going to see if you can see my, I don't know, Alice can confirm with this now, whether you can see what I'm moving into the screen now, because I can't see what I can see. So it should be like a keyword planner in the middle of the screen, hopefully. Depends whether it's showing my window or my screen. Now what I've been doing, if anyone can't see me typing here, or just let me know. Basically what I've been doing a lot with clients recently, looking at search trends and looking at people buying online, and I've got a slide on this in a minute, is looking at how things are changing. And when we try and get people to a website from a search engine, we often look at trying to see what searches people are putting in. So sort of things I've been putting in more often, the sort of plants online, plants delivery.
We can't see you typing, Eddie.
Good, that's what I wanted to know.
Okay.
So let me try and see if I can do it differently. It's doing the window and not the screen, so I'm going to swap to this one now. Can you see me typing now?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's fine. I understand what it's doing now. So herbs, online, that sort of thing, whatever your business is. And the keywords there is online and delivery. So we use this. This is actually Google AdWords. So if you were going to run an advert on Google, you would do this, and Google would tell you how much you might have to pay because of how often people are searching for things. Now, you'll see here there's a bit of a trend for how often those phrases have been searched in the last 12 months, and then you'll see March right at the end, which is a massive increase. So when we're talking about online trends and things changing, these are how many times these words are searched for. on the left-hand side. Hopefully you can make those out. 390 for herbs, plants online 9,900 per month. This is the number of searches. But you can see to the right of that, there's like a little graph just with an uptick at the end. And I'm kind of looking for those phrases at the moment and changing people's websites, because if I look at plants online, that is the trend in the last year. So even like last year, what was that, April last year? And then in March, in February, it was 3,600 and 74,000 in March. Now, and as I scroll down, you'll see there's various different phrases that are suddenly having a rapid rise. Some are not, some aren't. I've deliberately chosen ones that I think are. But it's words like online and delivery and this sort of thing that need to be used more often in people's websites. So there's two reasons I'm showing you that. One is because obviously there's a massive increase in trend towards buying online. Secondly, that you should bear in mind that when you're writing text for your website, you should be thinking about the words you're increasing, that you're putting on there. And in a sense, if you're new to selling online, you're at a bit of an advantage if you know this information, because people who've been selling for quite a while won't be sort of changing their words they're using. They'll just be sort of plodding along doing what they're doing. If you're new to it, you've got a chance to respond to it. So let me swap back to my other screen. Okay, so online shopping trends. Now this is, you'll get this in the presentation, or it'll be available online. It's been recorded from what I understand. This is just an example of various different phrases from trees, bedding plants, of how it's changing. And yes, over time it'll settle down, but I think it's going to have a lasting impact. So what sells? Now, the first bullet point is products that people would readily buy online already. It's still true, but the products that people will readily buy online is changing. So that's sort of getting wider. Things that people search for, products where the shipping is inexpensive or acceptable. So if something's too heavy for the cost of the product, then it becomes a bit difficult. Products that have a niche, even if you're quite niche as it is, when you start going online, there's going to be so many more companies going online, you need to make sure you've got some kind of a difference between everyone else. Otherwise, you're just another company selling plants or selling whatever products you've got, or selling daffodil bulbs or whatever it is. Okay, next one. So you need to have that unique selling point, a reason why people should buy from you, whether it's the history of your company, whether it's the quality, whether it's the free delivery, whether it's just the range of products that you sell. Are you quicker? Are they going to get the products quicker? Delivery times are a bit of an issue at the moment, so people are kind of shopping around to make sure they're going to get things faster. Think about your products. The bottom bullet point is a bit of a joke, really, because obviously everything is difficult to get on the high street right now. But you have to think beyond where we are now as well, because this could open up new markets for you. So how are you going to do it? The top one there I've seen happening quite a lot as an initial stage. It has done for many years, really. You'll get emails from people. People will be messaging you on social media. And then you have a check, or you have bank transfers. Bank transfers, you need to really move away from as quick as you can. It's difficult to give refunds. If you start to grow, it's harder to understand which client has paid, which customer has paid, which it relates to. Then people start to look at things like PayPal add to cart buttons and PayPal instant commerce, which is quite new. I'm going to go into these in a bit more detail at the moment. Sort of third-party marketplaces like Amazon, Etsy, and eBay. Social media sites like Facebook, and I would imagine most of you that are selling and arranging sales are having communications with people on social media about can they buy things. Now, I still don't think that social media is a good sales platform. It's a communications platform. So in the future, it's not going to be the main place where you sell things. If I'm looking to buy some herbs or daffodil bulbs or whatever it is, I'm not going to go onto Facebook and just browse around for an hour and hope that I see it. But nevertheless, there are things you can do with Facebook. Then you've got third-party e-commerce platforms like Shopify. What I mean by that is that a platform that sells, where you just buy off the shelf, an online shop, put your products in, change the templates, and then you're selling online. And then, of course, your own website as well. Remember, any questions in the planner, in the chat, because I will just waffle on for the next sort of 20-30 minutes. Please ask any questions. So, PayPal add to the cart. Now, I'm not a major fan of PayPal going forward as a business grows. I know some individuals prefer PayPal, but there are issues that if I go to pay with PayPal, and then, although you don't have to have a PayPal account, a lot of people think that you do, so that's a barrier. And if I go and use my email address that is linked to my PayPal account, even though I don't want to pay with PayPal, PayPal will force me to log in. So I generally find that people who only accept PayPal will maybe get slightly fewer orders than people who have full credit card processing. Having said that, it's an option to have alongside other methods of payment. The great thing about PayPal is you can set it up really quickly. So within sort of an hour, you can be online selling something on a website or even on Facebook or whatever. Add to cart buttons are basically where you go into PayPal, you put in your product details, you put in the shipping, the price, all that sort of stuff, and then that will give you a small little button which can be put on your website. So imagine that you've got a website which was not online sales because everyone used to come to your nursery or wherever you are. You didn't have online sales, but maybe you developed one or two products that you thought we can sell these really quickly, but we need an online sales shop. In this instance, you could literally add an add to cart button to your website within 30 minutes, and then people will be able to click on it and buy that product. It requires you being able to go to PayPal, put some code onto your website, and then it's there. If you can't do it, then for a web developer, it's not a big job. Just in a question there about a particular platform to sell from, I'm going to go through different ones now, just in the chat there. PayPal Smart Buttons is slightly a bit more modern really than just PayPal Add to Cart. What it gives you is a button to buy a product and also a link to pay by debit or credit card. So it kind of splits up the two things, PayPal and pay by debit credit card. Same sort of pricing, relatively cheap, relatively easy. And you just go to PayPal, sign up, and then you create a button which goes on your site. One that's really quite new is PayPal Instant Commerce. Now what this does, it creates a link, a web link, which you can give to anybody and they can go and buy a product. And I think this is quite good for businesses who haven't got a full online sales website and they just want to send a link to customers or put something on Facebook or whatever where people can go and buy something. So I'm going to try and demo this to you now. Just let me switch to another screen. This one here. Okay. So basically, this is PayPal Instant Commerce, which I'm hoping you can see. And on here, what I do is you go into here. These are my products, which I've got none at the moment. And I'm going to add a product. I have to have a PayPal account for this. So I add a photo. I'm hoping it hasn't logged me out of PayPal. I'm going to sell some herbs. So I've got a photo here that I borrowed from somewhere temporarily earlier. Okay, now I'm just going to refresh my browser because it might have logged me out. There we go. So it's a good idea, actually. I'm just demoing this. You can set a PIN setup or a double login. And this isn't me like padding. It really is quite good to have this because it stops people getting into your PayPal account even if they get the password. Okay, so I'll add a photo. Some herbs. Four mixed herbs. Nice for cooking. Garden, whatever I want to say. And these are 50 quid, these, because they're very nice. They're well grown, they're in pots. Free delivery. So, in terms, obviously you can take more time over it than I have, add more photos if you want to. And then I can literally create that link. So by clicking create, it will then give me a link. I could share it direct to Facebook, but I want the link. And if I just put this in the browser at the top, if you can just see that link, anyone could go to that. You all now could go to that link if you wanted to and buy these herbs. So once you give anyone the link, then they can buy it. So that's quite good for social media, quite good for social media shops. Or even if you're just emailing somebody or somebody message you and say, can I buy this? You can just send them this link and it's done. So I think that's quite good. That's PayPal Instant Commerce. So just to illustrate that, without going back to the beginning of my presentation again, this is kind of what it looks like. I make the product, this is in case my PayPal didn't work, and then it gives me this link here. And then that's my sort of product that comes up in the end. Marketplaces. So these are, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these really. They are things like eBay, which is okay. Amazon, I know quite a few people that are getting started with Amazon. A lot of people turn to Amazon to buy lots of different things. The fees are relatively expensive, but it can be a really good route to market if you've got enough of a niche, but also people looking at it. Just answering a question on double login. That may not be the perfectly technical term, but it's like you log in on the screen and then you can set up a PIN. So whenever you log in anywhere, you'll see this on a lot of banks at the moment. Whenever you log in anywhere, and you'll be able to, especially on PayPal, they will always send you a text message with a code before you can get in. And if that PayPal account is linked to your bank account, there's a real risk that you could potentially lose quite a lot of money through your PayPal. So it's really good to have that sort of double login set up. So with Amazon, just coming back to that, it's okay, but it's a good starting point. I would not see that as my only route to market. Normally, from an online sales point of view, we see Amazon as a bit, get your own website set up and then see Amazon as Amazon. Thanks, Nick, for that. I couldn't get the words out for letting me know what it is. Two-step authentication. Brilliant. So Amazon is a later stage, really. Not for straight away, but at this point it might sort of help you. This is for your reference, really, for anyone who's thinking of selling on Amazon, just to bear in mind that there are so many different factors as to why your listings may or not be shown. Generally, if it's a good quality listing with good reviews and people spend a lot of time looking at it, you'll sell more stuff. But price is a huge factor as well. Etsy, I'll sort of skim over. It's just an online marketplace. I'm not a huge fan, but it's a good starting place if you've got, it's more for crafters really, more than your sector, I suppose, but worth exploring, but quite expensive in terms of fees, in my view. Social media, as I've said to you, I don't think people go on social media to buy things, generally, but at the moment, people are going on to communicate with people and maybe buy things, but they're still stumbling across things rather than actually going and looking for it. Now, ways you could do things on social media is use Facebook by putting posts on there, on promoting those posts. I'm a big fan of paying to promote things on social media, not because it costs, because you might get a return on investment from that. So as long as you're spending £5 and getting enough sales from that, then it's worth doing. So if you are putting things on Facebook and it's working, experiment with promoting it a little bit. The shop function on Facebook, I see this occasionally used, but not very often. This is where you have a tab on your Facebook page where you can add products to. And I'm going to try, must be bonkers to do this, but I'm going to try and demonstrate how to set this up now. Because even if you already sell online through your own physical shop, you can also link to those products from a shop within Facebook, which is just another way of navigating. So it might be useful. Now, the page I've got is called Eddy the Pianist, okay, which is totally fake. It's got a tent and a river from North Wales. It's a fake page, so ignore the page. But you'll see on the left-hand side here, these are my main tabs that I've got. And what I want to do is put a shop in there with products that are for sale. So any Facebook page can do this. Some of you may already do it. But basically, I can go to settings on the right. And then on the left-hand side here, I've got templates and tabs. And then as I scroll down, these are the tabs I've currently got available. But I want to add one of the ones that isn't there. So I go add a tab. and I'm going to add a shop. There's loads of other ones there as well, but I'm going to add a shop. And then close. And I don't want the shop down the bottom, so I'm just going to drag it so it's near the top. So that's the basic first process. Go to settings, go to templates and tabs and add in a shop. When I go back to the page, you'll notice I've got a shop there on the left-hand side now. I need to agree to the terms and conditions. Which hopefully won't take long. And then I can either get people to message to buy or check out on another website. So this is where you do a link to the products that are already on your website or to the thing that you've made in PayPal Instant Commerce. So you should just link to that. Continue. So now I've got my shop. I can describe what I do, obviously, but I can add a product. I'll just go to my downloads, put my herbs in there. Herbs, £50. I'll share it on my page. And this is where I put the checkout web address, the one that I made on Instant Commerce, or the web address for the exact product in your website. Okay, so that will then get vetted by Facebook to make sure that I'm not selling anything I shouldn't be selling. So you can then potentially share that product with people, show it to people. People can browse it and look for it. But the other thing that's quite good as well is I can go to, when I actually put a post on here, let's say, for example, if you're selling plants and you've got a picture of plants in a garden or a load of sort of plants in an arrangement or something, or flowers, whatever it is, when you're actually, and it might not let me do it yet until it's approved it, but when I'm actually typing something or I put a picture up there of whatever it is, this is Aberystwyth Promenade, just random picture. There's an option there to tag products. And in here, I can tag a product and say, yes, my herbs, you can buy there. And then when anyone looks at the picture or looks at the products or hovers over it, they will see a link then to go and actually buy those products. There's my product that's come up. And my Aberystwyth one might pop up soon. Facebook do not charge for this. So I'm still waiting for that to come up. But basically, the picture I put of Aberystwyth, which is totally random, will come up, and then you can tag the product in it. It could be because my products are not approved yet. So I could just foresee a situation where you've got, like I say, even like a nursery, or you've got a range of plants or anything like that, and you're tagging the different products you've got. So it's just another way to add an extra dimension to your post on Facebook, and then people will be able to actually go through and click and buy it and pay for it. And that's cost you nothing apart from the commission you'd pay to PayPal. Even if you've got a full online shop right now, you could be using this feature to promote your products more effectively on social media. Let me go back to my presentation. Okay, you've got Marketplace as well. That's the other thing where you can put things on there. Shopify, which is online sales website, will integrate as well with Facebook. So the products you're selling on Shopify can be pulled straight through into social media. You can do other things with that as well, sort of remarket those products, but I'll come on to that in a second. Instagram as well. That links to a Facebook catalog, slightly more advanced, but it is possible to tag things within Instagram that are for sale. I don't find Instagram is a great sales platform. It's great for engagement, lots of likes, but it's not brilliant in terms of sales. One thing that I think you definitely all should do, unless you're selling something that doesn't look very nice, is you should all be setting up a Pinterest account. And then Pinterest is like a virtual pinboard, and then pin all of the images on your own website. And what will happen then is when anyone's browsing Pinterest, and they do spend a lot of time on Pinterest, as they're browsing around, they will find your pictures, and they will click through and end up on your site. And I know people in your sector that are doing this and getting a lot of visits to their website from doing it. And the funny thing, it's classed as social media, Pinterest, and out of any of them, it's the lowest maintenance one you can do, and it will bring you the most amount of clicks. Pinterest business account, totally free. Pin your own images on your website, and that will bring people to your site, where then hopefully you can sell to them. So looking at third-party platforms, Shopify is, I would say, probably the one that's rapidly growing, the most popular one for purely online sales. It's a little bit limited in terms of the templates are quite fixed, but it's designed to sell. Just going back to the previous point, Pinterest is free. You can pay to promote things on there, but I don't know anyone that does. Pinterest is free. EK and PowerShop is similar to Shopify. BigCommerce, quite popular, but not as popular as Shopify. I'm seeing people who are thinking of building an online site that's going to be going forward for the next few years are tending to lean towards Shopify. But Shopify is not as good as general content. So if your website is, a lot of it is about you and the business and many more things other than the online shop, then maybe it's not the perfect thing, because Shopify is a sales platform and pages are basic, basically. Wix, I quite like Wix. I would say, I can't believe I'm saying that because I'm a web developer as well, but I think it's really got its place. I've done courses in the past showing people how to build their own websites and how to have a go and how different platforms work. And Wix is one of those where I know that people grasp it quite quickly. So they start, they have a go, and you can add an online shop to Wix really quickly. All you do is that you just go and add a module to it, or add a section to it, an app I think they call it, which is online sales. Your cost increases to maybe £16 a month, but then you can sell loads of different products on there. The transaction fees are quite low. So with a little bit of knowledge, a couple of hours, you could have a website selling things online through Wix at your web address. Squarespace, very similar, but I find not as intuitive. I find people tend to struggle with that more than Wix, which is why I tend to push people more to Wix out of those two. And these are kind of website platforms that have online sales added on. So they may not be as good as Shopify for selling, but they are also reasonably good at having websites as well. If you go to a web developer, or you decide you're going to build a proper website yourself, generally, probably the fastest growing one at the moment, I would say, is WooCommerce with WordPress. I see that quite a lot. WordPress is a website platform or a blogging platform, but people often add on WooCommerce to it. It has its limitations, but it's quite cheap. So I kind of see that quite a lot. The reason why we see that is because a WordPress website might cost you £1,000, maybe a little bit more than that. And then adding WooCommerce onto that will cost you more, but not a ridiculous amount more. Whereas if you go for a full online shop, you're going to be spending, to be honest with you, maybe £3,000 plus. So it can be a cheaper way of doing it, just adding WooCommerce to an existing WordPress site. CS Cart is mainly for online sales. I've built quite a few in that platform. Not many people offer it. I think it's pretty good, but there isn't a lot of support for it in terms of developers that can help you with it. Magento 2, unless you're a huge company selling £200,000, £300,000 plus, I want you to discount Magento 2 straight away. It's quite expensive to maintain, very expensive to develop. If you're paying less than 5 figures to have a website in Magento 2, then you're probably not going to get the website built properly. It's just really expensive, has its place. It's the most customizable, the most flexible, the most powerful to integrate with other systems, but it's very expensive. Loads of others, Xcart, 3D Cart, etc. What we tend to use is builtwith.com to find out what other people have built their website in. So if you find a website and you think, oh, I wonder how Dave down the road built his website or whatever, or this looks nice, I wonder what that's built in, you can go to platforms like builtwith.com, put in the web address, and it'll tell you what system they're using. So that can be quite a good way of looking at trying to decide how you should go about getting an online sales website. Builtwith.com. Transaction fees. It used to be probably 3 or 4 years ago. Mainly, you'd sign up to a merchant account. You'd pay maybe 20 quid a month, and then you pay commissions on top of that. Those days have sort of gradually gone. Really, you used to have quite a significant credit application as well years before that, so it wasn't that easy to get. And because of that, I think WorldPay is sort of used to be one of the leading ones. It's sort of ebbed away a little bit now. Maybe SagePay is still up there, but only because they've gone with a real pay-as-you-go option. Shopify have their own payment system, which is slightly more expensive, but it's not too bad. PayPal we've talked about. I'm quite a big fan of Stripe. If you can access it, it integrates with quite a lot of shops now. Squarespace integrates with it. WooCommerce integrates with it. And it also integrates really well with, if you do your accounts online, Stripe with being online, which really quite nicely goes into things like Xero. If anyone has heard of that as well, excuse me. Should have put my phone on silent, shouldn't I? So sum up, iZettle are more for contactless payments rather than online sales. Got more on that in a second. So they're basic ones here. So these are the sort of contactless solutions that you would use. People, you shouldn't really be using cash at the moment. Checks are a pain. So there's other ones to these as well. They'll all have a slight delay of bringing the payments into your bank, maybe a couple of days. Stripe's a few days as well. And again, the reason why I like Stripe is because whenever you send an invoice to anyone and they pay by credit card, it will automatically be marked as paid on your online account. So it's really quite slick. PayPal here, the money gets in pretty much straight away. That's the advantage to that. So these prices here are for the little gadget, the contactless gadget, the payment machine for you to actually do those transactions or send people a secure email. So these figures are a one-off figure to answer that question. And then a month, and then you've got the percentage commissions. It's worth shopping around with all of these. Some little bits on distance selling regulations, the exciting stuff. Basically, you have to provide your business name, contact details, and address. And this is probably one of the things I see people don't do enough because you don't want to reveal your full details. But if people are going to buy online, you have to give them those details so that they can get in touch with you. All the information. Delivery is one of the reasons why people don't buy. If they feel that if they don't know what the costs are, if you're doing really low delivery costs, then shout about it because it's positive. But if people are browsing around, they're thinking, well, I don't know how much the delivery is going to be, so no point me adding it to the basket. You need to make that really clear, and how things are going to arrive, and how they're going to arrive safe, and when are they going to arrive. How they can cancellation, and returns. Now, because it's distance selling, they have a right to cancel up to 14 days after the order is delivered without any reason. And they have to pay the postage, but then you have to refund their order and the postage paid to send it to them as well. But you have to tell them that in your terms and conditions. So you should have terms and conditions on your website detailing all of this. In an ideal world, you should go to a solicitor and get one bespoke made up for your company. Or you can go to many online websites where you put in your basic information about your company and they'll give you some sort of off-the-shelf terms and conditions. But do read them. There was that case of the ferry company that the government commissioned quite a while ago, and then when they checked the terms and conditions, it had about pizza delivery or something in there. So if you do end up looking at somebody else's terms and conditions for inspiration, make sure you edit them to make sure they're relevant to your business. Exciting security stuff now. Well, it is important. HTTPS is the one that you'll see quite a lot, really. This is when you have the little secure padlock on a online sales shop or any website. To be honest, if you've got a website, you should be having that padlock. And what that is, it says that you've got an SSL certificate. It means that instead of it going to HTTP, it goes to HTTPS. And that's a trust thing, really, as much as anything. Otherwise, it's going to say not secure. The other issue you've got as well is that search engines may list you a little bit lower in those search engines if you haven't got a secure padlock. It's not a major factor, but it is a factor. things like Wix, Squarespace, Shopify will have that as standard. If you haven't got that padlock on your website, then talk to your web hosting company, talk to your web developer. It's not expensive. It's very simple to put on, but you do need it in place. Most of the time, things like your security, PCI, DSS compliance, don't worry about that too much. It's more of an issue if you're taking credit card details on your own website, or if you're taking credit card details over the phone. That's when that starts to really come into play. Most of the time, it's quite low risk because your payments go off to PayPal, off to SagePay for the people to put their credit card details in. Couple of other little bits really. Facebook catalog, I did mention this earlier. This is slightly more advanced really. If you have an online shop in WooCommerce, not so sure about Wix, but very many online shops, and you could build this yourself anyway, it is possible to create a file, and I'm sorry if I'm getting technical, a file, it's called an XML feed. It's like a spreadsheet really, which says, these are the names of the products, these are the prices, this is the description, and this is where you buy them, and this is the picture. You can have that so Facebook can see all of that list, and then you can run advertising to people showing them a whole range of a catalog. So you can have like a carousel of those products with links through to those products. And that gives you the ability to market to people, remarket to people when they've been to your website and looked at a product, to then show them that product they were looking at, because Facebook will know. That same sort of feed that your website can make can also give you Google Shopping. Google Shopping is one of the, if you search for anything, if you're searching for herbs, for example, the ones that appear at the top with pictures to click through to the products to buy them, that's Google Shopping. But there are rumors that's being trialed and rolled out to be free now, but before it was going to be just paid advertising. But they are going to be rolling that out, so that if you have that feed to your website, your products will be able to be sold on there. Just a question there, one for later. Thoughts on online platforms popping up selling veg? There's the Online Food Network, isn't it? Is that what they call it? Online Food Network that's out at the moment, which is quite low. There's a lot of people popping up selling different, joining things together, selling bread. I know some companies who are selling products online are also adding other products in there. I think there's a lot of opportunity for collaboration and talking to different companies. The costs on the Open Food Network are quite low, actually. I thought they were quite expensive to get involved. But I haven't had massive, the people I know that are using it are trying to set up their own system so they feel more in control. I think it's a little bit like if you're on there with everyone else. So you have to be a little bit careful. I think ultimately set up your own, but there are so many other little Facebook groups popping up who are setting up delivery services. So by all means, browse around. And that's probably where the Facebook groups come in, really, to research that kind of thing. So the key thing is now, and this is what a lot of people don't do, and this is what a lot of my focus of the one-to-one, when I do one-to-ones with people, first focus is getting the mechanics of selling in place. Once that is in place, it's then about maximizing it. Because very often your website has been geared up to be not an online sales website. It's been geared up to be a normal website, and you've suddenly added an online shop. Or maybe it wasn't a really important part of the business before because everyone was coming to you physically to do it. And we spend a fair amount of time looking at conversion rates. So what this means is that when 1,000 people come to your website, maybe only 1% of them actually buy something, which is quite normal, maybe slightly higher than that at the moment. And the idea is that if you want to double that and try and get more like 20 sales or 30 sales, you can either get more and more visitors, or you can try and increase your conversion rate to 2%. So very often, just changing things, reorganizing your website, changing the colors, making everything clickable, quicker, can make a big difference to how much you sell. So rather than just sort of like having your website there, thinking it looks pretty, spending a fair amount of time improving conversions, making it more obvious. Every time you make somebody think when they land on your website, you lose a percentage of people. So, and on that, just on that note, in terms of digital marketing, because And again, once we've got the mechanics in place, it's then about looking about how you digital marketing. Measurement is really key. You could measure how many social media followers you've got. You could measure how many email subscribers you've got. But ultimately, if you're selling online, you will be having traffic to your website, and some of those people will be buying or contacting you. And you need to know whether what you're doing is working or not working. And if you're not measuring the performance of your website using something like Google Analytics, then you're flying blind. Maybe you put 3 posts on Facebook in the last month and you sold a few things. Maybe you did an email and you sold a few things, but you don't know which of the things you did led to you getting sales. You don't know that when you reorganized your website, it made it more likely that people are going to buy things. You don't know whether your search engine work, the changes I talked about earlier, is bringing more traffic. Google Analytics, totally free, can be installed on your website really quite easily. And then from that point forward, you can see exactly of the marketing things that you're doing, what is working. Some of you may have it on your website, but just don't look at it enough, so you don't know where the success is coming from. Then once you can measure everything, you look at improving your website, which is what I've been talking about earlier. Make it really easy to get around. I often get email by people saying to me they made simple changes, just made their homepage image clickable, or they put the 3 main products they sell on the homepage right in people's faces, that they're selling more products. Even if they're doing deliveries based on people emailing them, they're selling more products. So it's not rocket science. It's just about making things really obvious and easy to get around on your site. Basic changes. Then you look at promoting it, and don't ignore search engine optimization, which is what I tried to talk about at the beginning. The words on your website need to include the ones you want to be found for. So if you know people are searching for herbs online, bedding plants delivered, or whatever, those web words should be all over your website, slightly more than you feel comfortable with. So it maybe sounds a little bit too wordy, but you need to get those words in there. And there's a whole science behind that, obviously, but on a simple level, talk about what you're selling, talk about what you do. You can do keyword research. I can always help people do keyword research and show you exactly what to tweak, but you do need to address search engine optimization. And by all means, try social media, put the posts on there. Don't forget to link to your website now and again, and try and get people to come to your website. When most of those people come to your site, half of them are going to bounce. They'll do nothing. And the rest of them will have a browse around, and then they won't buy anything either. So 100 people come to your site, maybe 1 or 2 buy something. So you have to find a way to engage with those people, to try and get some kind of connection with them. And we do this in 2 ways normally. One is to try and get an email from them, try and get an email address, which could be in response to a 10% offer voucher. So in other words, they go onto your website, they're about to leave, and they see an offer popping up saying, don't leave yet, we've got 10% off, or don't leave yet, why don't you download this guide of 10 things you should be doing in your garden in May, or whatever it is, some reason why they might want to give you their email address. When we look at website sales, traffic from social media to a website is really poor at turning into sales. Traffic from email is usually one of the highest performing sources of traffic. So very often, one of our strategies with social media is to get people to the website to download some guide, get a voucher, whatever it is, and then we market to them with email. The other one is slightly more technical, but worth thinking about, and that is the Facebook pixel. With a Facebook pixel, it's a little bit of code that Facebook gives you, once you ask for it, obviously, and then you put it on your website. And from that moment on, you can then remarket to people. What I mean by that is if they've gone on, browsed around, had a look at your products, and then they were on Facebook later, then when they're browsing around, they see an advert for your business. We find that a really, really powerful way of bringing people back. So just making sure that rather than people arriving on your site, going, and then they never come back again, they drip, 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 see your business on Facebook. And we only ever spend £1 a day to do that. No more than that. So email remarketing and then Facebook remarketing. Just a couple more slides now. Then the main thing is to realize that if you took 100 of your potential customers today, most of them are not ready to buy from you today. So traditional marketing says, right, we should blast messages out trying to sell our products. Whereas actually, if you understand that most of your audience actually don't want to buy today, and then you instead produce useful content to try and help those people, whether it's guides, whether it's planting, whether it's recipes or whatever it is, and you start to produce that kind of information, then you start to engage with your customers, and that becomes a draw to them to your website. We all search for how to do something. Somebody just literally, my partner before I came on this call said to me, can you please photograph this plant and find out what it is? And so I'm now later on going to be Googling and trying to find what this plant is. But the point is, I'm going to be using Google to find that. And if I could find some kind of plant identification guide or something like that, it may well be on a website that sells that particular plant. So it's a pretty live example of that, but people are Googling all the time for answers to questions. Find out what they are, and there are ways you can do that. Find out what they are, and then your content, the things you put on your page, on your Facebook, on your website should be answering those questions and helping people rather than just sell, sell, sell. And then the final thing is obviously to convert people. And that could just be the wording you use, the way you describe things, the colors you use. There's many, many different things you can do, but it's about having a website. It's not just about having the website and looking pretty. It's about chasing people through to that actual conversion, which is ultimately what you want, even if that is for people to contact you. So that's my end of my slides. I'll happily, should you put videos on a website? Yes, Andy, I would say that. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen. I would say that you should put videos on a website and also on social media as well. Videos on a homepage are really good. One of the problems we have with when people go to a website is they are only on there for a few seconds. Videos can be a really good way of engaging people pretty quickly. If Google sees that people are spending longer on a website more than a few seconds, then what can happen is they'll give it a higher position in the search engines. Google is very interested in how people are using websites rather than just whether somebody's clicked on it. So videos can engage people quite well. I talked earlier about video, about remarketing on Facebook. One thing we do, just getting slightly more technical, is video remarketing. And all that means is that when people are going around on your website and then they go to Facebook, instead of being followed around with just a standard picture, they're actually followed around with a video about your business. And we find maybe at least 5 times the engagement on those kind of advertising posts. So I know I'm just giving you ideas and I'm not showing you technically how to do that, but the marketing of your website is the second phase to having the facilities to sell. You have to push it and have to market it.
Brilliant, thanks Eddie. There's a fair amount of food for thought there. We're all going to go away and look at our websites in great detail, I'm sure. But thank you very much. It was brilliant, thank you. Just to flag, the session has been recorded today and it will be uploaded onto our Tubby Cymru Knowledge Hub. So if there's anything you missed or want to recap on, you can go back to the website and replay the video. And just also flag again the one-to-one offer that that Tubby Cymru offers with Eddie. If any of you are I'm sure a lot of you are commercially growing edibles or ornamentals in Wales, then get in touch with us and we can potentially put you in touch with Eddie and offer one-to-one sessions with you to look at your digital marketing, look at your website, looking how you engage with your customers. So it's a really fantastic offer, and I'm sure you'll agree that Eddie's probably the man to talk to about that. Just quickly before you go, you'll see in the chat box there's some contact details there. Excuse me, there's some contact details there, so you can get in touch with us if you've got any questions. We'd love to run some more sessions with Eddie if you'll have us, Eddie. So keep an eye out for the e-bulletin, keep an eye on our website to see what's coming up. We've got many more sessions coming up on technical advice on growing as well. So keep an eye out on your email box and on the Tubby Cymru website. Just as you leave the session, there's a really quick evaluation. So when you leave the webinar, an evaluation will pop up. It's about 7 questions, really quick, so we'd appreciate some feedback on that. But thanks, Eddie, and see you again. Thank you.
Cheers.